What's up everyone, Power the Dollar here. Today we're going to be talking about the elephant in the room when it comes to Bitcoin. And I don't care if you own just a little bit of Bitcoin or 1,000,000 Bitcoins, you don't have the answer to this question. This is a question that has been stumping Bitcoin investors ever since Bitcoin came about. And I feel it's a rather simple question to have the answer to if you're going to be investing into something. And that question is, who started Bitcoin? We've all heard the name Satoshi Nakamoto, but we all know that that's just, or most likely, a pseudonym for who created Bitcoin. Now, we don't know if it's one of these tech magnates out there. Some people think it could be Elon Musk or Jack Dorsey who created Twitter, or one of the above, right? Some people think it could even be a group of kids who started Bitcoin and figured this all out in a college dorm somehow, right? The truth is, absolutely all those answers, or any answer, is on the table. Do you know why? Because nobody has the answer and no one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. And before we go any further, I just want to share, this isn't a bull case or a bear case for or against Bitcoin. I currently own 0 Bitcoin, but I did first buy Bitcoin back in 2015 when everyone thought I was crazy. That was back before Bitcoin was $10,000. And if I'm being honest, obviously, I wish I held all my Bitcoin. Look at the prices in the last few weeks. But I didn't, and I made a little bit of money along the way, and I was very happy with it. But now that I don't own any Bitcoin, I have no bias for or against it. And ever since selling the last of my crypto over a year ago, I've had plenty of time to kind of think about the blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and whatnot from many different perspectives. And if you're new to Bitcoin or don't know the origin story of Bitcoin, it's a very intriguing story. Satoshi Nakamoto saw all kinds of flaws in the traditional banking systems, like fractional bank reserves, and also all these bailouts our government were giving these banks, the banks who caused all these problems in the first place. And the simplest way to explain this was that Satoshi Nakamoto wanted to create a peer-to-peer payment system, a system that didn't have to rely on third parties using the blockchain system to create a tamper-proof ledger. And more simply put, I could pay you without a bank being involved. Bitcoin came online January 3rd, 2009. This was just after the 2008 Great Financial Crisis. And a couple other fun facts about Bitcoin. On January 3rd, 2009, Satoshi mined the first Bitcoin. This was called Block 0, or the Genesis block. And a little over a week later, on January 12th, the first Bitcoin transaction took place when Satoshi sent 10 Bitcoin to cryptographic pioneer Hal Finney. And Satoshi was actively involved in developing the code and communicating on forums up until about mid-2010. And that's when Satoshi handed over control of the Bitcoin source code to other people. And I guess in 2011, Satoshi emailed a collaborator saying that they had moved on to other things and disappeared entirely, never to post or communicate again. And finally, Satoshi is estimated to hold between 750,000 and 1.1 million Bitcoin. That equals about $100 billion today at today's prices, making them one of the richest people on earth. And that brings up the second elephant in the room, the Gini coefficient. And long story short, that describes the concentration of dollars, the concentration of Bitcoin, gold, whatever it may be. And that coefficient is between 0 and 1. And what a 1 score would mean is that one person owns all of that said resource or item, whether it's dollars, Bitcoin, gold, you name it. And Bitcoin's score on the Gini coefficient is very close to 1. And that means that all the money and wealth tied up in Bitcoin is very concentrated in a small group of people. And if you thought the US economy had a very bad wealth gap or a very high Gini coefficient score, Bitcoin's is even higher. And just a little caveat with the data here, it's not fully perfect. There's multiple people out there that own multiple wallets. And all those wallets, let's say there's 10 Bitcoin and 10,000 wallets. That makes it seem like that there's 10,000 people out there with 10 Bitcoin, where one person could actually own that wallet. So the data isn't perfect. And the unadjusted Gini score for Bitcoin is between 0.96 and 0.985. That is very close to 1. Whereas the US economy has a Gini score of about 0.85. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not good either. It says here that the US Gini score is among the highest for developed nations, with 10% of people in the United States owning about 70% of the wealth. And I just want to add a little bit of context to this. This isn't a full apples to apples comparison. Bitcoin is just one asset, whereas an economy has multiple forms of assets in it. But the point I'm making is that if so few people own so much Bitcoin, they could easily manipulate the markets with buying and selling. And on top of it, we don't even know who started Bitcoin. And as we've seen, Bitcoin can just absolutely fall off a cliff and end up in a long, protracted bear market, or even what's called a crypto winter. And as we just saw, the US Treasury kind of disappointed crypto investors by not adopting crypto and Bitcoin as much as they promised to. And with all this volatility, both to the upside, but also the downside, do you actually believe that Bitcoin is an alternative to gold, or what they call gold 2.0? And is it actually a store of value if it can just crash overnight or skyrocket the next day? But with all that being said, I want to reflect on a very famous investing quote, and that's bears sound smart while bulls make money. And what that means is that there's people out there who are betting on things going down. Bears, they're expecting the stock market to go down, real estate, crypto, you name it. And they've got all these things lined up of all of these reasons why you should get out of this asset class and avoid it like crazy. They sound very smart, but oftentimes in the long run, those who are bullish on things like stocks, real estate, you name it, they often do very well. And since it first came about, Bitcoin has got about a 200 million% return. Where else are you going to find that sort of yield? Now, that is for the people who first got in early. That's not most of us, right? Even me at 2015, I wasn't that early. Even if I held all my Bitcoin then, I wouldn't have got a 200 million% return. But there is money to be made with Bitcoin. Every time it crashes, could you buy the dip and have it, rocket back up the next day? Sure. People have made a lot of money doing that, but people have also lost a lot of money with these crazy whipsaws you see in the market. That volatility scares people. They get a little bit of FOMO and they buy as it's going up. They see it in the news, they see it on Twitter, they see it on X, whatever it is, with all their friends. They see it going up and they buy there at the top, and then they see it rip down, and then they get scared and they panic sell just to see it go back up over the long term. So all in all, this is just a conversation about Bitcoin. Is it going to be an alternative to gold? I don't think so with that volatility. Is it going to go to 1 million? For your sake out there holding Bitcoin, I hope it does. Is it going to go down to 10,000 or 1,000? I don't know. I'm not here to make a prediction. I'm not here to give you my opinion. Matter of fact, for all you out there that's holding it, I hope it does go through the roof. But we don't even know who started Bitcoin. And I feel that most people out there didn't know about the serious amount of Bitcoin that was concentrated at the top with a Gini coefficient score of very close to 1. So with that being said, just because I don't own Bitcoin doesn't mean I'm not rooting for you. I hope your Bitcoin, all your cryptos, even if they're meme coins, I hope they go to the moon so it can get you closer to financial freedom, because that's what this is all about. Because if your money's right and your bills are paid, it's a lot easier to be happy because you'll have more time to spend it doing what you want. And if Bitcoin and the crypto market get you there, I'm very happy for you. And to close this video out, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any ideas or opinions you'd love to share, please drop a comment below. And if you found it interesting, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for all my future videos just like this. I'll see you next time. Thank you.